The blood was still dripping from my spear when I realized this was not just another conflict between tribes. It was the moment when two halves of my soul would meet for the first time, and the fate of two entire communities depended on a choice I didn't even know I had to make. The sun was setting over the waters of the great river, dyeing it red like the blood that stained the earth, and Lagoonid stood at the center of it all, torn between the solid ground I knew and the waters that called to me with an ancestral voice. My hand trembled not out of fear, but from a strange energy I had never felt before. It was as if two opposing forces were battling within me, each pulling me in a different direction. In that moment, as the war cries echoed around me, I understood that my journey was not just about uniting two tribes, it was about discovering who I truly was. My name is Loganid, and for 16 years, I knew only the firmness of the earth beneath my feet and the whisper of the leaves that taught me the secrets of hunting. I grew up in the Ojibwe tribe, where every child was born with a spear in hand and learned to track before they could speak. My father Ogum was the most respected warrior, whose name made enemies retreat before the battle even began. My mother, Oxum, was known for her wisdom and her ability to calm conflicts with words as sweet as honey. But I was always different. From a young age, something in me felt divided, as if two people inhabited the same body. In the forest, I felt a deep connection with every animal, every tree, every breath of the wilderness. My feet knew every trail. My ears caught the faintest sound. My eyes saw in the dark as if it were day. I was the perfect hunter, the one who never returned empty. But there was something else. Whenever I approached the great river that separated our territory from the lands of the Omi, I felt a strange restlessness. It wasn't fear, it was as if something in me recognized those waters, as if they whispered my name with a voice I knew, but couldn't recall from where. On the morning, everything changed. I awoke to the sound of war drums. My heart raced, not from the thrill of the approaching battle, but from a strange sense that something fundamental was about to happen. I donned my leather armor, took my favorite spear, the one I inherited from my grandfather, and left my hut. The village buzzed with activity. Warriors prepared. Women gathered the children. Elders whispered prayers to the ancestors. My father stood at the center of the square, his imposing presence commanding respect and attention. When he saw me, he beckoned me closer. Lagoonid, his voice was deep and authoritative. Today you will become a true warrior. The Omi attacked our hunting patrol. They killed 3 of our best men near the river. It's time to show them that the Oyubo bow to no one. I felt a tightness in my chest. It wasn't fear of battle. I had trained for this my whole life. It was something deeper, a sense that this war was wrong, that there was something I didn't understand. But I kept my expression steady and nodded. I'll stand by your side, father. He smiled, proud, and placed his heavy hand on my shoulder. You were born for this. My son Ogum's blood runs in your veins. Today, you will honor our ancestors. As we headed into the forest, following the trails I knew by heart, I couldn't stop thinking about a conversation I'd had with my mother a few days earlier. She had found me sitting by the river, gazing at the waters with an expression she called melancholic. What do you see in the waters, my son? She had asked, sitting beside me with that natural grace that made her so beloved by all. I don't know, mother. It's like they're calling me. Like there's something there I need to find. She was silent for a long time, just watching my face. Then, with a soft but mysterious voice, she said, sometimes, our destiny is not what we choose, but what chooses us. And when that moment comes, you will know. Now, as we marched through the forest toward the fight, her words echoed in my mind. Was this the moment she spoke of? Was this battle what my destiny had chosen for me? The closer we got to the river, the greater my unease grew. It wasn't just about the battle, it was about something much bigger. I felt as if I were walking toward a truth that would change everything I knew about myself. When we finally reached the riverbank, I saw the Omi warriors on the other side. They were strong, sun-bronzed men with glistening wet spears and nets. Their leaders shouted challenges across the water, their voices filled with anger and thirst for vengeance. But then something happened that left me speechless. As one of the Omi warriors approached the bank, our eyes met across the distance, and in that moment, I felt something I had never experienced before, an instant, inexplicable connection. It was as if I recognized this man, as if I knew him from some deep place in my soul. He seemed to feel something too, for he stopped shouting and looked at me with a mix of surprise and confusion. For a moment, the world around us vanished. There were no enemy tribes, no war. There were only 2 young men recognizing each other across waters that should have separated us, but somehow connected us. My father noticed my hesitation and shouted, Lagoonid, get ready, they're going to attack. But I couldn't take my eyes off the young warrior on the opposite bank. There was something about him that felt familiar, stirring parts of me I didn't even know existed. When he raised his spear, it wasn't with the aggressive gesture of an enemy but as a kind of greeting, as if he recognized me too. That's when I understood that my journey wasn't about destroying the Omi. It was about discovering why fate had placed this young man in my path, and why the river's waters seemed to sing a song my soul knew, but my mind couldn't decipher. The battle was about to begin, but for me, something far more important was just starting the discovery of a truth that would change not only my life, but the fate of both tribes. Dear listeners, you must be wondering what happened in that moment of recognition. How could a single glance across the waters change the course of a war? Stay with me on this journey, for what comes next will reveal secrets I didn't even know I carried in my soul. The battle began with the deafening roar of 50 voices shouting at once. But for me, everything seemed to happen in silence. As my companions charged into the water with raised spears, I remained on the bank, mesmerized by the sight of the young warrior who continued to watch me from the other side of the river. My father noticed my hesitation and shouted my name, his voice cutting through the air like a blade lagoonhead. "What are you doing? Fight." But something in me had changed. For the first time in my life, questioning didn't feel like betrayal, it felt necessary. Why were we fighting? Why did two tribes that depended on the same river, the same forest, the same earth, kill each other as if they were natural enemies? It was when the water touched my feet that everything changed. The moment I stepped into the river, I felt an energy surge through my entire body. It wasn't pain, it was as if every cell in me was awakening from a deep sleep. My vision became sharper, my muscles more agile, my breathing deeper. It was as if I were coming home after a long journey. But the most astonishing thing was that I suddenly understood what the fish were doing. It wasn't just intuition, it was as if their movements made sense, as if I could predict where they would swim. My hand moved instinctively, and to my surprise, I managed to grab a large fish with my bare fingers. "Impossible," I murmured, looking at the creature writhing in my hand. No hunter could fish like this. It was something only the Omi knew how to do, and even then, they needed nets and special spears. That's when I realized. It wasn't just that I recognized the young warrior. I recognized the waters themselves, as if half of me belonged to them, as much as the other half belonged to the forest. The battle raged on around me, but now I moved through the water with an ease that surprised me. Every movement felt natural, every breath synchronized with the flow of the current. And the strangest thing, the fish didn't flee from me. They swam around me, as if they knew me. From the other side of the river, I saw the young warrior approaching. He didn't come with the ferocity of the others, he came with curiosity. When we were close enough to touch, he stopped and looked into my eyes. "You're not like the other Oyubo," he said, his voice clear, despite the noise of the battle. "You move in the water like one of us. And you don't fight like the other Omi," I replied, surprised by my own courage. "Why aren't you trying to kill me?" He smiled a sad, weary smile. "Because I'm tired of this war too. My name is Olakin. And you have something in your eyes that reminds me of someone. Someone. My mother. She always said that one day, someone would come to unite the waters and the land. Someone who belonged to both worlds." His words hit me like a bolt of lightning. I felt as if an ancestral memory was awakening within me, something that had been dormant for a long time. "Your mother. Is she still alive?" Olakin's face darkened. "She died in the last Oyubo attack. But before she passed, she told me to look for the young man who would swim among the fish and walk among the trees. She said he would save our peoples." The world around me began to spin. It couldn't be true. But something deep in my soul screamed that it was exactly that. I was exactly that. "I need to meet your tribe," I said, the words spilling out before I could think them through. "I need to understand what your mother meant." Olakin looked at me with surprise. "You would leave your own tribe?" "I don't know who I really am," I confessed, feeling vulnerable for the first time in my life. I've always felt there was something in me that didn't fully belong to the Ojubo, something that pulled me toward the waters. He was silent for a long moment, then nodded. "Then come, but know that if my people find out who you are, they'll try to kill you. And if my people find out I went with you, they'll try to kill me too." We looked at each other and, for the first time, smiled. It wasn't just an agreement, it was recognition. Two young men who never quite fit in their worlds, meeting in the midst of a war that made no sense to either of us. Following Olakan to the Omi village was like stepping into a dream. Everything was different from what I knew, yet strangely familiar. Where the Oyubo built their homes from solid wood on firm ground, the Omi constructed theirs on stilts, letting the water flow freely beneath. "Here, we live in harmony with the river," Olakan explained as we walked along the wooden walkways. "We don't try to control or dominate it, we live with it." I watched children playing in the water, fishermen casting their nets with movements that seemed like a dance, women washing clothes while singing melodies that made my heart race. There was something about this place that touched a part of me I didn't know existed. "How do you breathe underwater?" I asked, remembering how I'd seen some Omi warriors stay submerged for an impossible amount of time during the battle. Olokon smiled. "It's not about breathing underwater. It's about being one with the water. Do you want to learn?" Before I could answer, he led me to a deeper part of the river. "Close your eyes and listen. Don't listen with your ears. Listen with your heart." I did as he said, and something extraordinary happened. I began to hear a music that seemed to come from the water itself. It was as if the river was singing, telling stories of all the fish that lived in it, of all the people who depended on it, of all the secrets its waters held. "Now dive," Olokon whispered. "Don't fight the water. Become part of it." When I dove, I felt that awakening sensation again. But this time, it was more intense. My body moved with a grace I had never known. I didn't need to struggle to swim. It was as if the water carried me, guided me, embraced me. And then I saw something that changed everything. In the depths of the river, there were ancient paintings on the rocks. They weren't made by human hands. It was as if the water itself had created them over centuries. And one of them clearly showed a figure that seemed half hunter, half fisherman. A figure that looked like me. When I surfaced, I was breathless, not from lack of air, but from pure emotion. "Olokon, did you see the paintings?" He nodded gravely. "My mother brought me here when I was a child. She said those paintings tell the story of the great balancer, the one who would unite the two worlds. But I don't understand. How can I be that balancer if I don't even know who I really am?" That's when an ancient voice spoke behind us. "Because you were born to be both, young Lagoon." We turned and saw an elderly woman with hair as white as the river's foam, and eyes that seemed to hold all the wisdom of the world. She approached us, walking on the water as if it were solid ground. "Who are you?" I asked, feeling a reverence I had never experienced before. "I am Yamanya, the mother of the waters. And you, my son, are more special than you realize. You are not just Logunid of the Oyubo. You are also Logunid of the Omi. You are the son born to unite what should never have been separated." My mind struggled to process her words. "But that's impossible. I was born to the Oyubo. My father is Ogum. My mother is Ogum." Yamanya smiled with a tenderness that calmed my heart. "Yes, you were born to the Ojubo, but you were also born of the waters. Your mother Oxum is also the goddess of fresh waters. And long ago, when the tribes were one, it was prophesied that one day someone would be born carrying the essence of both worlds. But why me? Why now? Because the time has come to heal the wound that divides our people. You have the gift to hunt on land and fish in the water. You understand the language of terrestrial and aquatic animals. You are the bridge that can unite what war has torn apart." Olokon looked at me with an expression of admiration and hope. "Will you really do this? Will you try to unite our tribes?" I looked at the waters that now seemed to sing my name, then at the distant forest that still called to my heart. I felt as if two parts of me, always in conflict, were finally recognizing each other. "I'll try," I answered, surprised by the determination in my own voice. "But I'll need help. I'll need both the Oyubo and the Omi to understand that we are stronger together than apart." Yamanya nodded approvingly. "Then your true journey begins, Lagunid. But know that uniting two worlds is no easy task. You will face resistance from both sides. You will need to show that it's possible to be both hunter and fisherman, warrior of the land and the waters." As she spoke, I felt a new energy growing within me. It wasn't just the energy of the hunter I had always known, or the fisherman I had just discovered. It was something greater, the energy of someone who finally understood their true purpose. "How will I do this?" I asked. "You will need a demonstration that neither people can ignore. Something that shows the two worlds can work together to achieve something greater than either could alone." And that's when I had the idea that would change everything. Dear listeners, can you imagine what was going through my mind at that moment? Discovering that I was more than I thought, that I carried within me the power to unite two worlds that hated each other. The hardest part of the journey was just beginning, and I would need all the courage I could muster. My idea was bold, dangerous, and perhaps completely insane. But I was certain it was the only way to show both peoples that unity was possible. I needed a demonstration that no Ojubo or Omi warrior could ignore. Something that proved the two worlds could work together to create something greater than either could achieve alone. "I'm going to hunt and fish at the same time," I announced to Yamanya and Olokon. "I'm going to show that it's possible to be both." Yamanya smiled, but her eyes betrayed concern. "My son, this has never been done before. The animals of the land and the water have always been separate domains. Forcing this union could have consequences even I cannot foresee. But that's exactly what I need to do, I insisted, feeling a determination that seemed to come from some deep place in my soul. If I'm truly the balancer, I need to show that balance is not just possibly, it's natural. Olakon looked at me with a mix of admiration and worry. How will you do it? There's a great jaguar that's been terrorizing the Oyubo for months. It's clever, fast, and no hunter has managed to catch it yet. At the same time, there's a giant fish the Omi speak of in legends, the Ogbomoso, that no man has ever caught. You want to hunt the jaguar and fish the Ogbomoso at the same time? Olakon asked, incredulous. More than that, I'm going to show that they can work together, that the strength of the land and the wisdom of the waters can complement each other. For 3 days, I prepared for what would be the greatest trial of my life. The first day I spent with the Omi, learning their deepest secrets about the waters. I discovered that they didn't just fish, they spoke to the fish, understood their migrations, knew when and where each species would be. The secret, an elderly fisherman explained, is not to dominate the water, but to dance with it. Every move you make must be a response to its movements. I practiced until I could dive and surface without making a sound, until the fish swam around me as if I were one of them. I felt my connection to the waters deepen with every hour, as if ancestral memories were awakening in my body. The second day, I secretly returned to the Ogubo forest. I needed my father's approval, but more importantly, I needed to better understand the patterns of the great jaguar. I met my father at dusk as he returned from a failed hunt. Father, I need to tell you something. He looked at me with suspicion. Where have you been, Lagunid? You disappeared during the battle. Some warriors said they saw you talking to an Omi. It's true, father. And I discovered something that could change everything. I took a deep breath. I discovered that I can be the bridge between our peoples. His expression hardened. Are you talking about betrayal? I'm talking about peace. A way to live without this constant war that only brings death and suffering. My father was silent for a long time. Then, in a low, weary voice, he said, Do you know I lost my younger brother in an Omi attack? Do you know your own mother was injured, defending our village? I know, father, but I also know the Omi have lost loved ones in our attacks. The cycle of vengeance will never end unless someone has the courage to break it. And you think you're that someone? I looked him straight in the eyes. I know I am. Something in my voice must have convinced him, because he sighed deeply. What do you need from me? I need you to help me find the great jaguar. And I need you to bring all the Ojubo warriors to the riverbank tomorrow at sunset. I'm going to perform a demonstration that will change everything. The third day dawned with a sky heavy with clouds, as if the heavens themselves were tense with what was to come. I spent the entire morning tracking the jaguar, using every skill I had learned since childhood. I found its tracks near a waterfall where it often drank. But instead of setting a trap to capture it, I did something completely different. I sat by the waterfall's edge and waited, not as a hunter waiting for prey, but as a being wanting to communicate with another. When it appeared, majestic and cautious, our eyes met. For a moment, I felt fear. It was truly an imposing creature, its muscles moving like water under its golden skin. But then, something extraordinary happened. It approached me slowly, as if it too sensed this encounter was different. When it was close enough for me to touch, it sat and looked at me with an intelligence that surprised me. You're not just a jaguar, I whispered. You're a spirit, aren't you? It tilted its head, as if agreeing. And then, in a way I still can't fully explain, I began to understand its thoughts. It was as weary of the war as I was. It attacked the Oyubo, not out of malice, but because it felt it needed to protect the forest from the destruction the conflicts caused. Will you help me show there's another way? I asked. The response came not in words, but in a feeling of agreement that filled me with hope. As the sun began to set, I made my way to the riverbank. On the Oyubo side, I saw all the warriors gathered, including my father. Their expressions ranged from curiosity to skepticism. On the Omi side, Olakon had convinced his companions to watch as well. My people, I shouted, my voice carrying over the waters. You Oyubo, and you Omi today. I will show you that we don't need to be enemies, that we can complement each other. I took my hunting spear and my fishing rod. I'm going to capture the great jaguar that terrorizes our forest, and the Ogbomoso fish that has never been caught. But I won't do it as a conqueror. I'll do it as a mediator. I entered the water slowly, feeling the eyes of both tribes fixed on me. When I was in the middle of the river, I called for the jaguar. It appeared on the bank, eliciting murmurs of surprise and fear among the warriors. Don't be afraid, I shouted. It came here of its own will. The jaguar entered the water, and to everyone's astonishment, began swimming by my side. Together, We dove into the depths where the legends said the Ogbomoso lived. And there it was, a gigantic fish with scales that shone like gold. But instead of trying to capture it with force, I did something no fisherman had ever attempted before. I extended my hand to it, as a gesture of respect. To my surprise and joy, it approached the jaguar, the giant fish, and I formed a circle at the bottom of the river. 3 creatures from different worlds recognizing each other as part of a greater whole. When we surfaced, carrying the Ogbomoso between us, it came willingly, not captured. The silence was absolute. Both tribes watched us with a mix of awe and incomprehension. "Did you see?" I shouted, my voice echoing over the water. "The jaguar is not our enemy. The fish is not our property. We are all part of the same world, the same balance. When we respect each other, when we work together, we achieve things that seemed impossible." Slowly, warriors from both tribes began to approach the bank. My father was the first to step into the water, followed by other Oyubo. On the opposite side, Olakan and other Omi did the same. "But how do we know this can work in practice?" asked one of the elder Omi warriors. "Because we will learn from each other," I replied. "The Oyubo will teach the Omi the techniques of land hunt. The Omi will teach the Oyubo the secrets of the waters. We will create a new tribe, one that understands both the land and the water." The months that followed were the most challenging and rewarding of my life. Uniting 2 tribes that had been enemies for generations was no easy task. There was resistance, mistrust, and moments when I thought I had failed. But little by little, something beautiful began to happen. The young ones were the first to embrace the change. Oyubo sons learned to fish with Omi sons. Omi daughters learned to track with Oyubo daughters. And I became the teacher of both, showing them how to balance the 2 skills. We discovered that combining land hunting techniques with water knowledge drastically increased our efficiency. We could predict where animals would drink, use the patterns of fish to understand weather changes affecting land hunting. More importantly, we found that we were happier together than apart. The feasts became more joyful, the stories richer, the children smarter. It was as if 2 halves of a whole had finally come together. Yumanya appeared to me one last time, a few months after the tribes united. She found me fishing by the riverbank at dawn, surrounded by children from both tribes eager to learn. "You did it, my son," she said, her voice full of pride. "You truly did it." "It wasn't easy," I admitted. "There are still moments of tension. There are still people who would prefer the old ways. But you showed it's possible. And that's the most important lesson. That balance is not a goal you achieve once, it's a daily practice." I looked at the children playing in the water, some fishing, others practicing hunting moves. They won't grow up with the hatred we grew up with. For them, being a hunter and a fisherman at the same time will be natural. Exactly. And when they grow up, they'll teach their children. And so, the balance will endure. Yamanya began to walk away, but turned back one last time. "Remember, Lagoonid, you are not just the balancer of the tribes. You are the balancer within yourself. Keep honoring both parts of your nature." Today, years later, as I look at our thriving community, I feel a deep pride. It's not the pride of a conqueror, but of someone who discovered that true strength comes from unity, not division. I teach the children that within each of us lies the capacity to be many things at once, that we can be strong and gentle, brave and compassionate, terrestrial and aquatic. That balance doesn't mean choosing one side, but honoring all aspects of our nature. My journey taught me that duality is not a weakness, it's a strength. That when we accept all parts of ourselves, we become whole. And when we are whole, we can help others find their wholeness too. The river's waters keep singing, and the forest keeps whispering. But now they sing and whisper in harmony, telling stories of a time when 2 peoples became one. And a divided young man discovered that his division was, in fact, his greatest strength. And you, dear listener, do you remember what you learned from me? That within you, too, there are multiple natures waiting to be balanced. That your own duality can be the key to your wholeness. Now, when I tell this story to the children of our unified community, I see in their eyes the same glow I once saw in the river, the understanding that we are capable of far more than we imagine. That balance is not a destination, but a daily journey of honoring all parts of ourselves. The great jaguar still lives among us, not as a threat, but as a symbol that even the fiercest can find peace when understood. The Ogbomoso swims freely in our river, reminding us that true strength comes from choosing to cooperate, not from being forced. My father, who once saw only war as the solution, now teaches young Omi fishermen the hunting techniques he learned in the forest. Olakon, who became my chosen brother, shares with young Ojubo hunters the mysteries of the deep waters. And me, I remain Lagoonid, the balancer. But now I understand that my true mission wasn't just to unite 2 tribes, was to show that balance is possible for anyone with the courage to honor all parts of themselves. Every dawn, I give thanks for the journey that brought me here, for the doubts that forced me to grow, for the conflicts that taught me to seek solutions, for the duality that showed me that being whole doesn't mean being perfect, it means being authentically yourself. Dear listeners, we've reached the end of this journey together. But remember, every ending is also a new beginning. May Laguned's story inspire you to find your own balance, to honor your own duality, and to discover that your greatest differences can be your greatest strengths. The river of life keeps flowing, and you are both hunters and fishermen on your own journeys. May you navigate your waters with courage and wisdom. If this story touched your heart, share it with others who are also seeking their balance. And remember, the world needs more balances, more people willing to unite rather than divide. You can be those people.